another episode of Posh Teacher, and I'm honored to have a very special guest. We have Mr. Schutes here today, and he has received two amazing awards back-to-back years. First of all, the Educational Hero Award, and then the Outstanding Educator Award. And we're excited to hear his story about education. So welcome, Mr. Schutes. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Mr. Schutes, let's start with the big question. When did you decide to become an educator? What was your aha moment that happened to you?
It was probably my junior year of high school. I grew up a three-sport athlete in high school. I played football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and baseball in the spring. In my junior year of basketball, being on the varsity, you had to coach a youth basketball team. So it was a couple of practices a week, and then it was 3 or 4 Saturday mornings. You'd show up to the middle school and just kind of coach the kids through a basic game. And I really had a blast doing that, and then kind of thought about it, and it was really a no-brainer because to me, teaching and coaching is one and the same. And I definitely get the same enjoyment out of teaching now that I did when I first started coaching that youth basketball team back in high school. So, and the rest is kind of history.
Well, what is the same philosophy of teaching in a classroom versus in a sport? Is there some similarities with that?
I mean, if you think there's a lot of similarities. I think at face value, you can compare, wanting your team to win a game to a teacher wanting their students to do well academically. And that to me is very surface level. I think I get more out of the, personal impact my players and students have on me. I still coach now. So the growth that I see in my, my baseball players, for example, that I see over the years when I have them for a period of time, it's the same kind of growth I hope to see in my students. And then there's that personal connection that I like to feed off of. And I think that's the biggest similarity that I like to tell people when I coach and teach and how I compare the two. So,
well, tell us, first of all, you've won 2 amazing awards and you've only been teaching for 4 years. So that is literally exceptional. And I think many teachers, no. I think so many teachers strive to be that outstanding, exceptional teacher. If you had to tell all these teachers out there, what are 3 elements or 3 qualities that you think allowed you to receive these phenomenal awards within 4 years of teaching?
Well, I guess first, before I answer that question, I don't, when I got into this, I really was completely unaware that there were any awards to be handed out for any reason whatsoever. I was well aware of what I was getting myself into and what my job was. And to be awarded 2 consecutive years, it was kind of a surprise, to be honest with you. Wow. The first one was my second year of teaching, and I really didn't expect it. I know I tell people a lot, there's people in my building that I work with that I feel like are way better at their job than me because they've been doing it much longer. So to be, selected and recognized was definitely very humbling. But to answer your question,
phenomenal.
I think first and foremost, I think teachers really need to strive to have a personal connection with their students. I think it's really easy for all of us to get sucked into the data, the numbers, the grades. And to me, that's all important. That's a big reason why we all come to school in the morning. And obviously the kids, we preach to them, they should strive to do well academically. But to me, that doesn't mean much if I haven't personally impacted my students in some way. If I can't get them to be excited to be in school, or if I can't get them to even, want to come back the next day, then the A+ they might receive really doesn't mean a whole lot to me, because if they don't have a desire to be in school, the next 7 years of their life is going to be, it's not going to be fun for them.
Definitely.
Number 2, I think it's just to work your tail off, to realize that during the school year, at least for me, I take a lot of pride in the amount of time I put in before school starts and the amount of time I put in after. I know there's a fine line between burning it at both ends, but also making sure that you are putting in that extra time, because this is not a bell-to-bell job. This isn't a 9 to 5. This isn't, show up at 8:30 and then leave at 3:30.
Check up.
Come back the next day and hope it all goes well. So, really connecting with your students, putting in the time where it's needed, and then just having fun.
Wow. Well, that's a
And
word that people say, what? Education can be
yeah,
fun, should it be fun?
and if I, in my teacher interview for where I work now, they asked me, what would be one word that how would your students describe you? And the first word that came to mind was fun. And I truly think that, kids, young adults, and adults, like, we're going to remember things throughout our life that were extremely fun.
Yeah.
I think humans are creatures of remembering experiences that were fun. We also remember the bad experiences too. So I definitely want to be on the side of my students remember something fun they did that school year or that day. So I guess those are my three long-winded answers.
I love it, and I applaud you with the fun part. I teach foreign language, and I had them bake bread for Day of the Dead, and I teach all boys, and so
Yep.
the guys baking bread, and you don't know how much they learned, and it was a fun thing. People are like, "What are you having these guys do bread?" Now with the issues we had COVID, they're like, "Senora, I can bake bread." So
There you go.
we learned how to work with yeast. So yes, I agree with you. So you never know. Having had to do distance learning, these past few months, how did you keep that alive in your classroom, or were you given that opportunity to?
Oh, it was hard. When I describe how distance learning went, I think initially it was almost like a shot of adrenaline, I guess, to where everything was so sudden, and it was a huge decision to, go from 3 weeks of no school to, nope, you lost your whole year. So it was that initial, like, adrenaline rush, like, this is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And then you realize that you can't really have a connection through an iPad, although, I was able to build on the connections I had made during the in-person school year. But it was a grind, and I'll admit it, there were periods of time where it was not fun. And doing this 3 times a week with 10 and 11-year-old kids can get boring. And the thing about 10 and 11-year-olds is they're well aware of what is going on. They're well aware of this isn't the classroom. Like, if I don't necessarily do my work, will he find out about it? My parents, so it was just, it was a grind trying to keep them motivated when you can't sit down there on a knee next to them. So, we had our good days, we had our good weeks, and then there were weeks where I literally, I had a stern talk with my class via Zoom to let them know, like, hey, like, school's not over. I don't care if I can't flick you in the forehead right now. We're still doing this school thing, so we got to, like, kind of suck it up and put our foot back on the gas pedal, kind of thing. So
wow, new challenges then completely.
Yeah, very, very true. Yeah.
I hear you. Have another life, other things that you.
Well, like I told you earlier, I coach. I'm an assistant varsity baseball coach in my school, my school district. And then I coach an 18-year-old travel team during the summer. That's where I was at this morning.
Wow.
So that takes up a lot of my free time is the baseball coaching. I give lessons. That's kind of my side gig. But if I'm not doing teaching and coaching, I love to fish. My twin brother and I own a fishing boat. I love to golf. I told you earlier today I'm going to a golf lake tonight. I love to camp. I love to hunt. So anytime that I can kind of step away from the noise and the hustle and bustle of school or the noise of coaching, it's nice to kind of just sit, maybe even run a campfire and do nothing. Wow. That's a very good feeling for me. So,
well, moving on another side, we have here at Posh Teacher, we have the manzana, the apple, and there's some questions in here. And so I wanted to pull out, obviously I will do it for you. But,
go for it.
So, and there's a little card for the question. So, all right. Oh, actually, I think you're going to enjoy this one. It says, LOL, so funny. So did you ever experience something that was LOL, so funny in your class?
Yeah, well, I'll try and make a long story short. My second year of teaching, I was out in the hallway helping a couple of students that were just out there, doing their thing. And at the time, I had on my favorite pair of dress pants. They were blue chinos from Banana Republic, and they were a little slimmer. They weren't like I had to jump off a tree to get into, but they were a little slimmer. And I bent down in a catcher squat to get at their level and help them out. And all of a sudden, I hear this crazy noise. And I knew immediately what it was. The two kids kind of looked at me like, and I stood up and my pants split wide open. And luckily, there were just the two students and then a colleague of mine walking down the hall. I don't think she knew what had just happened, but she looked at me in the eye, and I had this like white, ghostly expression, like,
gosh, get me a book.
I don't know what to do right now. And so I kind of like skirted down the wall. I kept my back to the wall, and I got into my colleague's classroom next door. I put a coat around my waist, and luckily I had to change of clothes in my car because I had to go get baseball lessons after school.
Oh, perfect.
So I rocked like training sweatpants and a t-shirt the rest of the day. So everybody was asking, why are you dressed like, well, I split my pants, so I had to change.
Oh
so,
my
yeah,
God, that is a great story. Tell me you didn't have dress shoes on, did you, or no, with shorts and dress shoes?
No, I had athletic shoes to change into too, because that would have made the outfit look great.
That would have been, yeah, poster child right there.
For sure.
That is, oh my God. Well, I love your story because obviously I was going to lead into a little bit of the clothing aspect. You know, as teachers sometimes, and we probably remember from our school, but they have a signature article of clothing or something you remember, you know, that teachers have. Do you have something that kind of your kids know that, oh my gosh, he wears a vest every day, or some signature item?
So another story, my twin brother visits my classroom every now and again during the school year. And then, you know, it's always natural the first time him and I walk into the classroom together, the kids freak out.
Oh, you're identical? Identical twins?
Yes, we're identical.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
And immediately it's like, number one, it's like a unicorn just came into the room. It's like they've never seen a twin before.
That is so
but,
cool.
You know, since it's your teacher and, oh my gosh, she's got a twin, there's two of them. And then they stare at you. They're trying to figure out, you know, what the differences are. And they're doing this for 30 minutes. But then they naturally go to what he's wearing versus what I'm wearing. A couple years ago, I had a student, bless her heart. She described, my brother's name is Drew, described him as dressing like a cowboy.
Oh.
And I asked him why, and she said, well, he was wearing like his work boots and a pair of nice jeans, and he had like a flannel jacket on. And apparently cowboys dress like that. And then I said, well, if he dresses like a cowboy, what do I dress like? And she just said, up to date. And I'm like,
oh, whoa.
I'll take that. I guess that's a compliment. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I have a signature like outfit. You know, for me, I need to be comfortable. So it's a lot of golf polos, golf pants. When I found out they make men's jeans that now flex, that was a game changer for me.
Yeah, you know.
Because if you were in my classroom for 5 minutes, like I get on top of desks, I'm up and down with the kids. Sometimes I go to recess with them or step in gym class, so I'm moving with them. So if I have something that constricts me, it's no good whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely.
And then other than that, I guess, I mean, I'm kind of known now because I have tattoos, so that's not really clothing, but that's,
I think that's super cool. No, I mean, how do they see it as a teacher with tattoos? Because that's definitely changed through the years how people perceive a tattoo. Right?
I would say the majority of the kids were like, wow, that's really cool. Like, is it real? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, is it?
I just stick on.
Is it going to come off? I'm like, no, here. And they're like rubbing away. I'm like, it's not going anywhere. But I think they're totally cool with it. I mean, I explain why I have certain tattoos, and a lot of it is personal meaning, whether it's, you know, my faith, or some of them are from my mom, who's a cancer survivor. So once they hear the story, she's a trooper. So once they hear the story behind it, they're totally okay with it. I think initially they're like, so do you drive a motorcycle? Like, do you have leather jacket to go with it or whatever? So, yeah.
Well, you know what? I loved how open you were with your profile, that you wrote, walk by faith, not by sight. And I think that's very powerful. And, you know, so many people are kind of shy from sharing, you know, that they have. Yeah. And you were very open to put it in your profile. So tell me why you're so open to sharing that.
I think, you know, I've always, you know, growing up, I went to church quite a bit. And then, you know, when I got into high school, you know, my faith was always there. I think it was it's not immature is the right word, but a very basic understanding of kind of how things unfolded for me. And, you know, I would pray before football games, and it was a real basic, like, all right, you know, let's
going through the emotion,
and make sure we don't get hurt, and, you know, look out after my family kind of stuff. And then the older you get, you start to look through the rear view, and you kind of see how certain things unfolded and certain events and how they unfolded. And then you realize that sometimes it's a very roundabout way, but you always end up kind of where you know you should have been. And I think teaching was that, like, you know, because when I first started my internship, I was in straight panic mode. I played college baseball at Western Michigan, so that was my entire college schedule.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're student athletes, so obviously you got to hit the books to maintain eligibility, but like your classes revolve around your baseball schedule, whether you like it or not. Because you got 6 a.m. lifts, and you've got 3-hour practice, and then when the season starts, you've got you're on a bus during the week a couple times, and then you go out of town. So really, your life revolves around baseball.
Completely, it's a job.
And once it was done, I kind of was like looking at my hands, like, now what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do because sports were over. And I remember walking into my internship absolutely in panic mode, like, I don't know if I'm going to be good at this. I don't know if I want to do this. And then as soon as I introduced myself, I remember it being this like really easy, natural sounding, like, wow, that came out really easy. And it felt as natural as what sports always felt for me. And I think that was the moment that I'm like, okay, I definitely think I'm doing what I should be doing for the rest of my life. So
thank you for sharing that story.
Absolutely.
Well, I think people need to know the value of teachers and what an impact they're making. And sometimes it's all behind the scenes. And I just want to put it out there in the front lines, to share.
I appreciate that. And I hope a lot of people have a different appreciation for teachers, obviously healthcare workers, and now parents too, and we all had to do what we just had to do. But when, kids go back home when they're not supposed to be at home because they're supposed to be at school, and they realize sometimes how much of a struggle it is to get kids to do their work, how much of a struggle it is sometimes for them to focus, how much of a struggle it is to balance, work, going outside to play, taking a break. And, I definitely, not just for me, but I read through a lot of positivity from just random parents across the country that say, all right, teachers should be making, 6 figures or whatever it is. And, I don't need to make 6 figures, and I'm not going to sit here and preach that I need to be making, and we need to be making
we
a lot
could
more
use
money.
A little bit more extra change.
I hear you. Yeah. It would be nice, but
it would be nice. A lot of them work 2 jobs, or coach, they've got to supplement with other things. So
and I think the vast majority of us don't do the job for the money. But
I agree.
If they gave us a little extra paper, I don't think we'd all be upset about it.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
No. Well, thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it. And we dedicate this to your mom. This interview we dedicate to your mom.
I appreciate that. I will let her know, and I'm sure she will appreciate it for sure. So
that's great. Well, thank you much. Thank you so much for joining us. And
you're welcome.
I wish you great success, both coaching
I appreciate
and
it.
classroom.
Okay. Thank you.